What is up? It is late night. For those of you who have not followed me for more than a hot minute, this is what I used to do. Having children, you do what you got to do. And I don't do this because I want relevance or followers. I just want the information to get out there. So this will be on YouTube. Let me make sure, because for some reason Facebook likes to block my live. So this will be on YouTube. Gotta change my privacy while I'm on here, or it is not live. Done. Dun, dun, dun. Being a butthole. Dun, 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 dun. Anyway. And just a reminder, guys, if you're writing from Facebook, there's a little disclaimer up there that says I'm streaming from StreamYard, and so it'll come through just as hi, like Facebook user just came in. If you want me to know who you are, there's like a little disclaimer that says StreamYard. Just tell StreamYard it's okay for you to have your name. If you're on YouTube, I will get your YouTube name coming through. Rumble, I need to get there, but it is entirely too complicated to set up those links at YouTube. You can just go boop and it goes. So we will get there eventually. We'll get there eventually. But my life has always been public, and therefore education should always be public for those who have questions. So that's why this goes to my page, the Parent Team 6 group. If you're not a member and you believe that there is not two parties but one destroying education, or you think you might believe that, and you just want a group of people who understand what you're talking about and you want more information, that's what, I'm backwards. Parent Team 6, pt6.org. That is a takeoff of the Spartan mask from 2A. Come and take it, because that's my babies and me. And that's how I feel about parental rights, is you have to strip them off my cold, dead body before you have my parental rights. And I suggested every parent, because parental licensing is coming at us hard and fast. And you think that's crazy? Remember what you were promised 2 years ago. And now we have birth at 5, and Republicans are excited about it. Okay, so I was thinking about it tonight, and then of course somebody wrote me wanting to know more about school choice. And tomorrow night I will do that. But first, in understanding school choice, is let's talk about how we got here, because in this new Parent Team 6 thing is that theaters of war. I have a master's in geopolitical war history. My grandfathers were at Normandy and Iwo Jima. My husband did 4 pumps in Afghanistan, and then was at the Iraqi embassy for 5 years. 4 months on, 30 days home. So, yes, I was made for this. So, again, we got another thanks in. So, if you want me to know who you are, I don't have to show them who's commenting. Just click the little like StreamYard thingy up above the comments to let StreamYard tell you tell me who you are. And if at any point anybody wants to jump on, bring it. I've been like Morpheus, bring it, but it was more to the loonies over on the other side all day long, and they don't ever bring it. Why? Because it's been brought in probably once before, and they learned their lesson. Just like, Ty Turner and all those people. Bring it once. Don't do it again. Is that in understanding education, you have to be based. Somebody was like, do you mean biased? No, I mean based. Like the James Lindsay term. Like, yeah, I can go in front of the Senate and not plan anything at all that I'm going to say in education. And off the top of my head, clear the room. Boop. So someone said, we got here with this statement, when the children are at school, I can work. Think about it. That's true. Parents have gotten, and I'm going to say that, extremely lazy. And now, was the lazy making us lazy planned? Absolutely. And giving women, this goes to making women think that if they did not go to work, they were terrible people. They were horrible feminists. They were horrible women. I am a stay-at-home mother and a wife and a freaking warrior. That's who I am. And I am proud of it. And we, as you saw me tell the Senate, we are poor. Okay, because we have to pay for our children and taxes to go to private school to keep them safe. But my husband works at a chemical plant. And then it was, thank God they're in school because thank God they are in school because they're at school. Yeah. But I mean, is that in that same thought, and yes, parents have become extremely lazy. I've had so many parents tell me it's really hard. You know, I'll have to change my life to get my kids out. Yeah. Yeah. My husband came home from, he was making $700 a day at the Iraqi embassy. I was unemployed. Had 2 Skype babies, had raised children, and had just gotten used to that money coming in. But COVID was coming, and he was like, I don't have a job. I was like, I don't care. We'll figure it out. I'll hustle. I'll bartend. I don't care. I was a single mom once. We'll figure it out. But yeah, but what about parenting? Did you get a certificate when you became a parent that promised you it was going to be easy? When the witching hours started and they started screaming, or if you had a colicky baby, or you had to do the boob swing for hours on end, what about parenting ever was going to be easy? Let's see, she said, then I can't teach them myself because they're at school. I have to work. The government says, gotcha, leave them in the bus. Correct. Which is a great point as to simultaneously, while Tim Kaine, Virginia has a very bad problem with being like, oh, Tim Kaine, bad, evil. He's in the federal up in DC. I say up in DC because to me it feels like it's way far away. I forget it's like right there. He's up in DC doing like, oh yeah, birth to thrive. We're gonna take care of your kids and birth to 5. And people are like, no, that's evil. And then you put a red vest on the same idea, and people are like, oh, great. Yes, yes, yes. No, stop it. People, stop it. A welfare state is a welfare state, and that's what they are making us. Yes, welfare state. And I'm not even going to get into the fact of, we talked about like behavior screeners. These are called, it's called DECA. Same people that make DESA. We posted about it, I think Delane and I did last night. It's called DECA P2, DECA IT, which is for infants. They literally have behavior screeners ready to go. Discovered this when I discovered all this stuff back when Deb and I were doing our series, and we discovered DESA. DESA, by the way, is the only one approved by the WHO. So you got DECA, DECA. You can look it up. DECA P2, DECA IT. 0 to 18 months, 18 to 36 months, and then 36 months to 5, because then you get into kindergarten, and if your division has by now started doing it. We just had James Lane, and our contracts go back to 2016. So no, it wasn't about COVID. But yeah, so that's what's going to go along with it. So your children are going to have their mental health based on things like a pediatrician. But it's going to be a teacher. No, actually not even a teacher. An instructional aide, or a permanent lifelong substitute. Because how do you fix a teacher crisis? You drop the standard of what a teacher is, just like a mental health professional. Because as long as we have bodies, we don't care if they're raping or beating our children. Who cares about that? They're just bodies. They're not teachers. That's like this whole teacher, all teachers need it's just like, it's Marxist. Just like when Gadara says that all children need to graduate with like a family supporting wage. What is that? But that's what they're saying about this teacher. All teachers need to be paid this. Well, first of all, we haven't had teachers that are actually qualified, like with a praxis and like doing student teaching and all that stuff in like years. they'll pretty much literally like let anybody. Charlottesville actually put forth a motion to let felons become teachers. Not kidding. That'll be in this big story, state-sanctioned pedophilia, that I am finishing up. I apologize for its tardiness, but as a survivor of child sex abuse, I have had to take breaks from it because it is very nasty. So today I wanted to give you a little history on, now I was 2 years old, of the language of education and how it, like I've said 100 times, if you know anything about me, it has not changed in over 40 years, to Chuck Robb. So I took one of my mini slideshows. And I also want to encourage people that whether it's social emotional learning, and you can ask anybody, I mean, I have gone to Montgomery, I'm going to Winchester. Again, guys, if you're in the Winchester area, Saturday, we will be at Wake Up Winchester, in Winchester. Yeah. And I'm going to be digging into these if you missed the Virginia Medical Freedom Alliance on Monday, I'm going to be digging into school-based health facilities, which are already in Bristol, Roanoke, Petersburg. You notice how they're targeting the lower. That's exactly what Youngkin did with the lab rat schools by John Dewey. By the way, just throwing that out there. But I'm going to be covering how all of this so for people that don't care, because I've had to reinvent the wheel so many times, how do I get people to care? And then working with the amazing Anita Hogue, she pointed out to me that once all of these children have 9 or 10 codified mental illnesses, I'm going to add that slide real quick. But while I add that slide, you're just going to be an a-hole, aren't you? Okay. Anyway, unhappiness. Yeah, is a mental illness under the new Medicaid for all. Okay. And so things like people ask me about school choice is that it talks about IEPs. But if you don't remember the Jillian Balow video, you can search Jillian Balow VDOE special education. May not be your first one. They're only like a minute a piece. She's on there telling you how all children will have individual education plans. IEPs. So that's one question when you're reading. And then read school choice, because the DiSTEF school choice that I just sat through the Senate and read was lab school choice. And it was, again, only for poor children, and thank God, left out privates and homeschool. To which I blasted them on the perception that we're poor is just to protect our children. So you assume that we're rich, which is entirely not true. I just refuse to leave my children in an environment where my daughter's coming home telling me that she has generalized anxiety disorder. You're giving her opiate assignments where you're giving her images on how to use them with rolled up dollar bills, crushed up pills, tracing the dragon, and then an assignment to go home and see what's in her house, find it online, and then post an image of the pill at 11 years old. So if I didn't know that and my child overdosed, who's to blame? If I didn't know, me. Who would lose my other daughter? Me. Because Chesterfield County put that in all 12 middle schools. Few parents I talked to that were like, oh yeah, I saw that. And I was like, you're okay with that? But a lot of parents don't connect dots. Like, schools they've taken our rights to teach what they think, this is appropriate drug education. Okay, 11-year-olds. Hydrocodone, oxycodone. Let's give them all the names. Desensitize them. Tell them that, you know what? These orange bottles are painkillers. And if you abuse them, they'll make you warm and fuzzy. Because that's a deterrent. And then here's the names. And then here's how you use them with images. I'm like not kidding, like foil with a pipe and a rolled up dollar bill and okay. But if you Charlotte Iserbite, they talk and like all these people have been like death ed, what that did. Like if you don't listen to me, Charlotte Iserbite, she blew out the Reagan administration, clear out of the water. Sorry if you didn't know Reagan was a truth. But these are people you can find YouTube on it if you're not a reader. I'm a reader. Talking about what death ed and what all of this was meant to do way back when. Mental health our kids to death. That's why I know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay. Problem, solution, problem, solution, problem, solution, problem, solution. That's what we're doing. People say, well, what's the alternative to school choice? How about learn what in the hell is wrong with public education? Like if I was the Secretary of if Donald Trump, that's why I made that thing that said Trump taters, because I'm not kidding, is that when he gets the ticket, I'm going down to Mar-a-Lago and I'm not leaving until I speak to him because he's not hiring another DeVos. That's it. You can hire me. I don't want to do politics, but I dare somebody hire me for your Secretary of Education, your public. I'll fix it. Guarantee you I will, because none of it's constitutional to begin with. None of it. From the federal to the global, even to the state level. We're the mother state, Virginia, if you didn't know that. We had a constitution within 2 weeks of the Declaration of Independence. Is that you can look up, there's 70 years of Virginia Supreme Court cases that state we are autonomous. Our individual localities hold autonomy over the state, much less the federal. Okay. So at 50th in the nation for 7 years in a row, when are we going to push back and say, no, we're not going to do your standards of learning anymore? It's unconstitutional. But school boards, like, they want like the easy answer. Well, how do we do that? You fight like hell is what you do. You don't want to know how I'd fight. Someone said, welfare education told Glenn Davis when he was in office, we will pay, they will get money for school if based on income. Let me tell you a story about Glenn Davis. That dumbass made the mistake of don't go to war with me on Twitter. And it's just, especially if you hold office anywhere. So he decided to get smart with me on Twitter. Glenn Davis, I'm not the one. I know everything about you. And so people like me, they talk about money. Like last year in the Senate, Bryce Reeves was like, they talk about money. Nobody knows where the money. I said, do you know where the money comes from? Do you know what the money is they're talking about for school choice? I do. Because I took a census report from 2019, 2020, needed to update it. And you take median household income. I have every division. And then you have to take the poverty rate, the ability to pay. And then that's going to spit out what your local taxes are. That's your local tax dollars. And then your state tax dollars are done by some maintenance of equity. So if you live somewhere really rich and your local tax and you have like $150,000 median household income, your local taxes are going to be like $18,000. Your state taxes are going to be like, this is per pupil, are going to be like $3,000. Your federal taxes are going to be like $750. So what Glenn Davis was going to do last year with his average he spoke about, they were going to give you your state dollars. So in some divisions, they were going to give you like $2,750. These are the same people telling me that if I'm not for school choice, then I'm anti-parent. Okay. And they're going to keep your $18,000. And if you have children in private school, tell me how much. $2,000, especially if you're up in the divisions up near DC, where their local dollars are $18,000. So I said, let's be clear about the money here. You're giving state money. So the reason that works out, and they try to appease the left, guys, you can't appease the black hole. You will feed it to death until it eventually swallows you up. Okay, That's why you can't, like, you can be polite, but stop with the appeasement. Critical race theory, queer theory, all this stuff. You cannot appease these people. Period. Stand up and fight, because if you appease them, they will, just like the Nazis did. I did my thesis on my master's on appeasement. Okay. I spoke with a family who lived their entire lives and watched the entire thing happening, hoping it would stop, and it didn't. Okay. So is that you feed a black hole, it will eventually get so big, you can't satisfy these people. You can't. You cannot satisfy them. But and eventually at some point somebody had written Davis and was like, we started getting into the Hunt Institute, and Davis, you just don't want it to go there with me. But people actually believe. I was on Twitter tonight. They were like, well, it's better than nothing. Is that really where we are with our children? Is better than nothing. So you're okay with them keeping you're gonna get pennies on the dollar. But just, guys, there's not even enough privates that are even worse than publics. There are so many privates. I mean, I would tell you that there's probably 5 to 10% that are non-compromised. And by that, I just mean non-woke or doing biblical SEL. Because even my children's, they're doing the standards of learning. So if you want to know, because we're in Chromebooks, what a first grader's standards of learning look like, what they're learning, I get actual papers at home. So yeah, sitting down, having a cost benefit analysis conversation with my 6-year-old who's bawling, that's fun. Because I fought against these standards for just age appropriateness at the minimum last year. But is that, people, school choice is not the panacea. It's not. One, are you ready to homeschool? Because there's not enough schools, privates. If you think that you can just take your kids out of school and go pick a private, sorry. No. You're going to end up with something probably, I know a lot of parents that did that, and they ended up putting their kids back in Powhatan because they ended up with a worse school than they started with. But there's just too many questions. Like, there really, especially with this Steph's bill that I was sitting in Senate and I hadn't even read it. And I was sitting there listening to it, and I was like, and for once I was off camera, thank God, barely. But I was sitting there going, every other word was like innovation. It sounded just like lab rat schools. It was workforce, literally workforce, lab, innovation, school choice. Which brings, again, then Brewer, then Sturdicant came up, and that brings in the whole coctopus and how much they paid. And then AFP was there and Ty Turner, and that was fun. But remember, AFP paid $120,000 to get Sturdicant elected, $70,000 to get Brewer elected. And so that's what the VEOA has these, if you pop up on your Virginia Education Opportunity Alliance, which is Middle Resolution, sometimes Heritage, In and Out, Family Foundation, Americans for Prosperity. Now it's Virginia Institute for Public Policy. They have these little now they've got these ads, and it's like education excellence. And so that would be like but Brewer's going by her married name now, so she's not Brewer, but she's still Brewer. And then Sturdicant. But I've shared the link there, and I've shared what I said to them. But you really need to go back and watch, especially the D-Steph, his reading of school choice. Okay. And then from that, the transition into Brewer's bill, who was bought by AFP. And then that's when my brain started going, ooh, okay, is that pieces like that, like when you've been involved, like I live in a county where we lost by 300 votes because AFP pays people, imports people to come in. I mean, who can afford $100,000 in imported door knockers who have these little things, I-360, which is what secure the vote is, that when they walk up to your house, they literally already know everything about you, what you care about, and what you want to hear about when you vote. That's the future of voting. It's the scariest thing ever. But I live in one of those counties. So to see Sturdivant up there be AFP's mouth boy, but then Ty Turner came up to speak about Sturdivant's bill, which he had never mentioned the word school choice. But Ty Turner came up there and immediately started talking about this bill and school choice. And I was like, whoa, hold up. Nobody mentions school choice here. But just like Glenn Youngkin calls lab school choice, it should make you think. Like, people want me to give them an answer. I can give you 800 documents that I've read to understand school choice. It goes along with unelected school boards to be the part of the undoing of the nation. So there's Deliberate Dumbing Down, Charlotte Iserbyte's site, and then AmericanDeception.com if you want to take the time to learn to understand. It's all out there. If you're not in Parent Team 6, the group, I share documents all the time. But people, I can't read it all for you. You have to want to learn it. And therefore, then educate yourself, educate your friends, educate everybody. Because like I posted, a school choice, those of you that it's like people that are so determined because they think that their government's going to take their money and give it back to them with no strings attached. Why would they take it in the first place? And is the government, we're the government, we're here to save you. But the purpose of tonight, again, is these wonderful people. Let's present. Let's do it. I miss doing shows and talking to myself at night and not ever knowing if anybody's watching. So, from Chuck Robb, that would be 1982, to Gerald Belial, to Dougie Wilder, to Alan, to Gilmore. This is why when I tell people, it don't matter, D, R, oh, God, D, R, I put Terry up there, I just couldn't do it, RDD, question mark. It doesn't matter what color vest they have worn since 1982. It has been the same goal. And I'm just going to remind you guys that I used it. I helped get that man elected. This is my little one in Clarksville, Virginia, because I traveled to 7 rural districts. That's me and my family with him. And yes, he knows my name. That's me in one of his ads at Keystone Acres. This one. Parents Matter. Remember this one? Parents Matter, Parents Matter. Virginians are saying, no, not here. Yeah, we are. That is downtown Richmond at a filming of one of his, the Terry drones marching down the thing. That would be my little one at the Keystone Acres when Matt Strickland stopped. Yeah. He wasn't talking about masking. That would be my 4-year-old that probably got him to start talking about that. Because he really wanted it to stop that night. But I said, are you going to tell my little 4-year-old who called you Mr. Virginia to stop? And that would be this night. Freedom, I can only explain it to you. I can't understand it for you. Stop the mandates, Youngkin. This would be in Burke, also known as Fairfax. This would be at the Chesterfield Airport at the end of the election. This would be me on election day. Oh, yeah, I did have one of those. Sorry about that. Burned it. And so people say, well, at what point was your cutoff? Hell no. This was. When he hired Amy Gadara. People are like, okay, data quality campaign. What is that? This would be 2005. A national campaign to improve the quality, accessibility, and use of data in education was launched today at the Council of Chief School Officers and U.S. Department of Education's Data Summit. This is, I have the, if anybody wants it, just let me know, but this is, I had to take clips of the press release to fit it on one thing. The campaign is supported by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, because they are not an LLC like Chan Zuckerberg, you can just go right on their website and type in data quality campaign and find out. And who was their founder? Amy Gadara. They founded the statewide longitudinal database system that swaps our children's data across the Notice that anybody go to a Parents Matter event, Henrico, Virginia Beach, anywhere, when they were gaslighting people about data collection and the cell phones? Notice they never mentioned the Chromebooks. So my point is that was my, nope, I know too much. And then, of course, I, dug into Carlisle World Economic Forum. We'll get into that in a second. But Council on Foreign Relations, guys. This man, our governor, has been on Council on Foreign Relations. Very scary. So I wanted to bring y'all back to, if you don't know about the Road to Charlottesville, 1989 Education Summit. This would be here in Charlottesville, here in Virginia. That would be Bush. That would be, who is that? Clinton? Let's see, who else is in the picture? I know the infamous Hunt out of North Carolina. They were all there. Oh, look at that. Oh, look, that's Belial's walking with Big Bush at Charlottesville.
I want to thank Governor Campbell, who is not here, and Governor Branstad, who is.
This is on the steps at Charlottesville, by the way.
And all the others who worked on this statement from the National Governors Association, John Sununu and Roger Porter, and others from the White House staff. And most important, Mr. President, I want to thank you for giving us the chance, the governors, after 7 years of hard work on education reform, to have a real national partnership in education. The press will ask today, and maybe the people will when we get home, what really happened here that makes a difference.
Okay. Pay attention. Bill Clinton, after meeting with, Belial's. Okay. They don't mention him because you're in his home state, but he hosted it. Okay. Bill, Bush, Belial's. They all intersect. Okay. So Chuck Robb, and it would be Reagan. Yes, I'm so sorry, guys. Reagan is a part of this. And then you got Belial's and Big Bush. And then we know we got Clinton. And Clinton aligns with Allen. We'll get to that in a second.
I want to thank Governor Campbell, who is not here.
All right, we're going to skip that.
Difference. I would say there are people will when we get home. What really happened here that makes a difference? I would say there are three things. This is the first time in the history of this country that we have ever thought enough of education and ever understood its significance to our economic future enough.
Economic future, okay? Keep that in mind. Workforce education, economic future. Okay? This should not be things that enter your brain anymore and are normal.
To commit ourselves to national performance goals. It has never happened in over 200 years.
The reason a national performance goals has never happened in over 200 years is that it is literally a U.S. code that federal education is unconstitutional and illegal. And it's 10th Amendment, not in there, goes to the states. So he's literally, it has never been done in 200. Well, that's the history of the country. And you're literally just admitting that you're doing something that's never been done because it's unconstitutional.
This is the first time ever any group of public officials have ever committed themselves to a national effort to restructure the schools of the United States, something every educator who studied it says is the single most significant thing we could do. And this is the first time a president and governors have ever stood before the American people and said, not only are we going to set national performance goals, which are ambitious, not only are we going to develop strategies to achieve them, but we stand here before you and tell you we expect to be held personally accountable for the progress we make in moving this country to a brighter future.
Notice, it is not want to be personally accountable to the children. It is moving this country into a brighter future. Okay? Because at first I was watching it and I was like, maybe we can, nope. We're not accountable to the children. He's accountable to bringing the country into a brighter future. That sounds like somebody, if y'all know me well enough, I'm going to play it.
To national performance goals. It has never happened in over 200 years.
You idiot. Okay. So just so y'all know, all children will start school ready to learn. Does that sound familiar? Kindergarten readiness? The high school graduation rate will increase to at least 90%. Graduation rate is a piece of paper rate. Diploma rate, who cares? They're not educated. All students will be prepared for responsible citizenship. Further learning, lifelong learning. Sound familiar? Okay, Bill Clinton, Jen Youngkin, does it matter? And productive employment in the global economy. Does that sound familiar? Bill Clinton, Glenn Youngkin. But there's tons of people across this state that will literally just find any excuse in their brain, just like Tim Kaine and the Birth to Thrive to 5. We're going to take your children as soon as, like Handmaid's Tale, that are like, oh, well, I mean, it's different. It's different. Teachers will acquire knowledge and skills necessary to prepare students for the next century, also known as the Fourth Industrial Revolution. So knowledge and skills. U.S. students will be the first in the world in math and science achievement. Why is that so important? We'll cover that in a second. Every adult will be literate and ready for lifelong learning. Sorry, every adult is not literate. Every school will be free of drugs, violence. Why is that? It's like one of those things like, that's really weird, unless you look back and think of the kind of education that has been implemented on our children since then. Every school will promote parental involvement in social. They will? Oh, I missed that. So right here, I found this great January, February 1982, because as a researcher, don't mess with me. Inaugural commemorative edition right here. And I'll zoom in on it, don't worry. But it says, I believe that economic development is the single most important challenge for the remainder of this century, said Robb, but we can't do it without quality education. As far as I'm concerned, education is the indispensable bridge to economic opportunity. Education is the one area where funding shouldn't be cut. Students must be assured a good, sound educational program. A good sound. That's, you know what? When I look for, education for my children, I'm like, is it good? Is it sound? And is it going to make the economy better? And these are all, immense papers that I've read. Just some blurbs. So in 1982, Governor Charles Robb appointed the Governor's Commission on Virginia's Future. This should all kind of like ring true. Like, I've heard this before, in the last week. This commission, chaired by William B. Spong Jr., who also served as Bilal's Commission on Excellence in Education, was subdivided into 5 task force groups. One was the Education Task Force. 2 reports were presented to the governor by this commission in December 1984. These reports were titled Toward a New Dominion, Choices for Virginians, Volume 1 and 2. And then here is another wonderful one on education excellence. We hear that a lot, right? Excellence in education excellence. Okay. This was actually a dissertation done many, many moons ago by a man named Maynard Bean. I believe it's out of Virginia Tech. Dissertations are great, people. If you can find some, I mean, because these are people getting their doctorates. These are solid, and they will have all of the document, like all of the footnote, like everything that you need. So in March 26, 1986, this would be before Charlottesville, Governor Gerald Baliles appointed a commission on excellence in education and charged them with the responsibility of bringing him recommendations for specific actions to place Virginia in the top 10 states in the quality of education it offers. The commission's report, entitled Excellence in Education, A Plan for Virginia's Future. Again, where are the children? A plan for Virginia's children's future? Contained 36 recommendations and was submitted to the governor. I'm just showing you clips here. And then we get around to good old Dougie. If you guys, outcomes-based education is the same thing as standards and Common Core, and also what we are living through now called competency-based education. So outcomes-based education, there's so much research. Charlotte Iserbyt, Wolves in Sheep's Clothing. You can look up Samuel Blumenfeld, OBE, Anita Hogue. OBE is that even liberal educators, you can look up Peter Green, Curmudgeducation, and he'll talk about outcomes-based. They hated it. This was awful. A progressive approach to education promoted by Governor Allen's predecessor, Democrat Douglas Wilder. This was the last time that I can track the General Assembly back to actually following the Constitution, that they are the final authority in all things education, because after comments were made, because he knew Allen was coming in and what was coming next, and he just kind of, but what really struck me as odd is the Roanoke Times, they're great archivists for their newspaper articles, but I was reading it and it said Wilder's outcome as education-based education plan, describing it as vague, affective, sorry I missed an F, and touchy-feely. And that was by the Family Foundation, which struck me as odd considering they've never taken a stance on social emotional learning. And if you want to look up a great paper, it's called From a Roar to a Murmur, Virginia's History and Social Science Standards, 1995 to 2009. I just added the crickets. And in this paper, they talk about education policies such as standards of learning are neither neutral nor static things, but products of ongoing relations and processes that are determined through negotiation, compromise, and struggle. In 1985, critics of the social studies, there's always been critics of the social studies standards of learning, by the way, contended that the standard writing process was politically driven, which it was. My daughter's mother-in-law was a principal in Fairfax during all of this going on, and Houghton Mifflin and in all of its like subsidiaries, 100%. So the people who wrote the standards then had books. They wrote, and then they also with Pearson made the money off of the assessments, but they wrote the standards. Harcourt Brace was one, Houghton Mifflin, but they're all the same company. If you look, like they're all subsidiaries. It's like the Coctopus. The writing process was politically driven, and that the standards were presented a skewed view of history that eliminated references to multiculturalism and promoted rote memorization that produced stellar Jeopardy players, but fell short of the preparing students for skills needed in the 21st century workforce. I was 15. I was a sophomore at Midlothian High School when this conversation was going on. And I want to dissect this really quick for you guys. And so when they talk about rote memorization, it's literally rote memorization, like memorizing. Am, is, was, were, be, being, been, had, can, could, do. Because I sat down in Farmville, Virginia, is that the only people that hate rote memorization are people who have read too much Paulo Freire, too much Dewey, too much Marx, That's what these people believe. Rote memorization is stupid. They believe in student-led learning, which is 100% Paulo Freire. There's a great article called Pedagogy of the Oppressor, which will explain pedagogy of the oppressed based on what we're going through now. Student-led learning. Teachers are nothing but the facilitator. And fell short in preparing students for skills needed for the 21st century workforce. This was 1995. The language has not changed. The struggle over knowledge begins in 1994. Newly elected Republican Governor George Allen did not start out bad. Announced his intention to promote the development of tough academic standards in order to improve public education in Virginia. Bravo, George. Allen's call came during a time of increasing national attention on educational excellence, school improvement testing, and a return to basic subjects like math and reading. He held strong for a while. Did they give me a date? 94? It wasn't until 97. We were the last state to sign on to Goals 2000. Bowing to pressure from Governor George Allen. Now, he bowed from pressure from other people. Virginia's Board of Education today applied for a grant. It's always about the money. Applied for a $15 million grant from a national education program called Goals 2000. Now, America 2000 is what they developed under Bush in Charlottesville. Goals 2000 is what, when Clinton was elected, America 2000 became. Despite objections from conservatives who complained that Allen had abandoned their fight against federal involvement in schools. Yes, the feds are in our schools. It's right there. The board voted 5-3 to apply for $6 million from the U.S. Department of Education in 97 and $9 million in 98. Squeaking under a June 30 federal deadline, Virginia became the last state in the nation to join the program. So, Clinton going whole hog on education reform. In Goals 2000, Educate America Act, President Clinton sent Congress 2 pieces of proposed school reform legislation. Improving America's, this is stuff you can look up if you want to learn more. Improving America Schools Act of 1993 to reauthorize ESEA. Okay, that's what he did. So, LBJ did ESEA. Clinton in Goals 2000 reauthorized ESEA. Then Little Bush reauthorized ESEA under No Child Left Behind, and Obama reauthorized No Child Left Behind under Every Student Succeeds Act, and that is the hell we live in now. Oh, look, flexibility for school. What did I say? Yes, sorry. No Child Left Behind was Little Bush. And then, you know, all the unions were like, that's when I got a lot of information about SOLs. Sorry if I don't know what I said. But yeah, it was Clinton was ESEA. Little Bush was No Child Left Behind, which everybody knows Child Left Behind because it was like the demon, right? Well, because Obama bought the media, ESSA, and also because it was spearheaded by Republicans. Lamar Alexander, Klein, Paul Ryan, woohoo, Eric Cantor. I mean, it was spearheaded by Republicans. So Republicans plus Obama and education, you start to get that, like that feeling like all the bipartisan unanimous legislation that's gone through the state of Virginia that people have just been like, what? But look here. Promotes increased flexibility for school innovation. Starts to give you that like warm and fuzzy feeling all over again. School innovation. With strong accountability. So the reason that, hold on, school to work opportunities. Danica Rome as farm to work or school to farm. But School to Work Opportunities Act. That's when children no longer engage in true critical thinking, all answers designed by the government. Bingo. And I love how you said true critical thinking, because if I hear one more person say children need to learn to think critically, I'm like, do you know what that means? Because if you read the history standards of learning, they're teaching cause and effect and critical think. That's top-down learning. Is that they're teaching critical thinking to kindergartners and first graders. The age of reason is what age? 7. But you're going to teach cause and effect and Venn diagrams to 5-year-olds? I'm sorry, come again. Is that we're critical thinking that you have. So people are angry that vaccination got redefined. Imagine every term in education being redefined you didn't know about, and they're speaking a different language you are. That's where we are. Critical thinking is not like we think. I think critically all day long. That's not what they're teaching children to do when they tell you they're teaching your children to critically think. They're teaching your children to critically think for the new age economy and the 4th Industrial Revolution. Like fuzzy new math. Where did that come from? Well, they don't really need arithmetic in the 4th Industrial Revolution. They need to think critically. They need to think, innovation. And they need, problem solvers. So let's teach them fuzzy new math. Fuzzy new math is, I can remember sitting there with my daughter going, my oldest going, what in the hell is this? Fuzzy new math is like this. Okay, so you have 7 plus 6. Okay. Old school, you would learn what 7 plus 6. You would say, okay, you would add 3 and that would leave 4 left over, which would give you what? So, you would have 3 and you'd have 3 left over. So you'd have 13. No, now they're teaching, 7, you round up to 10. 6, you round up to 10, which gives you 20. But then you got to go back and you got to remember that you added. So then you got to subtract the 3 that you took, and then you got to subtract the 4, and then you end up with the same answer. I got in trouble for teaching my child how to actually do arithmetic. Okay. If children don't know how to do arithmetic, right now, but this is where we literally are in education, is if everything, there is no, we are in postmodernism, if you don't know what that is that they're literally asking children, sit amongst your group think, so that none of you think independently anymore, and figure out an explanation and tell me how 2 plus 2, it can be as creative as you want, and tell me, how can you creatively make 2 plus 2 equal 5? I'm not kidding you. If you don't know what your children are learning, you better get a parent portal and get involved. Call your school counselor. Yes, don't even ask. I would like to make an appointment, and I'm going to need 8 hours tomorrow and 8 hours the day after that to come and view my child's entire curriculum. Oh, by the way, and her teacher training material by federal law. Thank you. If you have any problems with it, call me. I'll handle it. But yeah, that's what they're learning. I'm not even kidding you. There is no right or wrong. Moral relativism. Postmodernity. These are the postmodernism. You have to learn these terms. That's where the chaos, science, not real. That's postmodernism. That's where all this moral relativity. There are no ethics. There are no morals. They're all relative to who, what? Moral relative to whom? There is no right or wrong. Why do you think there's chaos everywhere? But okay, let's go. So just to clarify for some people who did not, and I said this in the Senate the other day, is so in 2009, they shifted its focus from grade level competency to college and career readiness because of the relatively flat scores on NAEP. Keep in mind, I've done presentations on this before, and if you guys would like me to do one, I will do it again, is that in 2009, there were 16 states below basic. And in the 10 years after we went to college and career readiness and got rid of grade level competency in 2019 prior to COVID. We were the only state, we were 50th, but we were the only state 10 years later after there had been 16 states below basic. Yes, that would make us like proficient is nothing to be proud of. Below proficient is something to be proud of. Below basic. And people are like, well, can you explain that? Like, think of it like you're basic. Like, it's like you can do nothing is how somebody described it to me. And this would be Bob McDonald also. When the question comes about Common Core. Common Core, we had Common Core because you take the money for Common Core to align to Common Core. You have Common Core. You can call it a duck. You can call it a swan. You can call it a pelican. You can call it whatever you want. But at the end of the day, if it walks like a duck and you pay it to be a duck, it's a duck. So standards of learning, whatever adjustments might be warranted to ensure alignment of SOL with Common Core state standards can be made within the process through which the Board of Education exercises its constitutional authority to establish standards for the Commonwealth public schools. But damn, we have had Common Core. We still have Common Core. It's actually funny, not funny, but states that are telling others that they have abandoned Common Core are adopting our standards, because do you know who had standards learning first? We did. Do you think it's an accident? That's where it can be justified that a man is not a man if you feel that. Ignoring reality, messing up language, false pronouns, us dumbing down. Absolutely. We are the most anti-intellectual adults. We have been programmed through what? Political correctness. Remember that? Our parents taught us to be politically correct. Some of us did. When I let that go, knowing that I had truth in my mouth and love in my heart, you can't be politically correct these days. You walk around silent all day. Wrong is wrong, right is right. I'm going to speak my truth. So here's a great one. A stronger focus on deeper learning. And because I don't want to be here all night, students in every grade are experiencing an approach to instruction that deepens the focus on key skills for success in a modern world. Critical thinking, creative thinking, communication, collaboration, and citizenship skills. This approach ensures students to develop the content knowledge and skills they need to succeed after graduation. What is succeeding after graduation? Can you define that for me? That's what parents should be doing. I'm going to need you to define that to me. Can you explain that to me? This social emotional learning thing, can you explain that to me? I'm going to need you top to bottom. No, what does that mean? What does that mean? New high school graduation requirements and career pathways. Pathways. There was like 3 bills. Foy out of tell you who. Pathways. Guys, this is not Governor Youngkin. Which ensures graduates have the knowledge. What is knowledge? Is it wisdom? Is it education? What is knowledge? Skills and experiences. Not education. Identified by employers. I've told people before, look up virginialearns.org. You'll see Allianz, Dominion, Genworth, Anthem. These are the people determining what skills our children need to graduate with. They don't care about academics. For the first time, all Virginia graduates will leave high school with life-changing work-based learning experiences that put them on the path for career and economic advancement. What if they want to go to college? I know, I hear all the time. Not every child is meant to go to college. I know that. And if 20 years ago they had started adding vocation and not getting rid of education, that would have been wonderful. That's not what they did here. WIOA. Look up the Workforce Initiative Grants. WIOA. This profile went into effect in this year's freshman class. Remember the 5 C's? An international baccalaureate, I don't have time to get into either, but that's another big one. Modernizing the Virginia standards of learning. Again, guys, this is not Glenn Youngkin. Over the past several years, Virginia has reduced the number of high-stakes tests until Dunnacant came along. The Commonwealth is also updating testing to better track not only what a student, how do you track not only what a student knows, but how ready they are to apply their knowledge and skills in the real world? How do you track that? Data. But it's not just what they know, but how do you track how ready they are? Parents will begin to see these new testing approaches. Really? We will? Because that just came about now. So this new, like, oh, Youngkin's like, oh, we have these new, like, things you can see your kids' data. It's not new. They're just finally telling you about it. Schools, students are asked to demonstrate their true understanding of concepts through short essays, projects, and other vehicles. Project-based learning in 3rd grade, totally part of this. This would be Governor Northam announces Virginia's for Learners. Guys, a learner is not a pupil. A learner is not a student. A learner, you can look it up, a learner is a factory model. It's like a factory terminology for somebody learning in a factory. So keep in mind, Virginia's for Learners is not a student, is not a pupil. 21st century education system in Richmond. And remember Youngkin ran on, we're going to make Virginia the #1 place to blah, blah, blah. Sorry about your luck, but I have a memo or a thing, and it's James Lane and Ralph Northam. And we were #1 prior in 2019, because why else would Amazon come here? We were already #1. Virginian students for success in the 21st workforce to adapt to a changing world. And I wanted to black this out right here. Taken together, these policy changes transform the way Virginia prepares our students for successful careers and lives after graduation. Where's college? Where's higher learning? Virginia's for Learners is our vehicle for communicating and engaging with the public about the changes happening in their schools and promoting future reforms to build on our momentum. If we work together, we can prepare every student for a successful career in the economy of the future. That would be Atif Corney, James Lane's secretary. Okay? Atif Corney, deputy superintendent. Atif Corney. So the race card, race baiting has all been overshadowing what I have been saying is that this has been going on forever. If we work together, we can prepare every student for a successful career in the economy of the future.
To become a reality, Virginia also needs to be the best place to learn. So everything that we do in the next 4 years in the Youngkin administration will be guided by our North Star, to prepare every single learner for success in life, in our economy, our democracy, and in our communities. Everything we do in education will be shaped by this goal. And how will we know we'll be successful in the long term? We have 3 benchmarks we're going to use. 1, graduates of Virginia education institutions will be hired into family wage supporting jobs, and they'll be actively.
Family wage supporting jobs is the North Star. What is that? 28? Working, 22. We're not done yet. That's just #1. This is actually the only one where they actually mention children. But I want to point out, but just like they talk about teachers in this legislation they're talking about now, is that this is Marxist language.
Engaged and productively engaged in civic life. 2, companies will be attracted to, remain in, and grow in the Commonwealth due to the quality of the talent pool. And 3, the Virginia economy will grow.
Okay. Their North Star is for children to graduate with a family supporting wage. I'm going to need you to define that. $22,000 a year? Because I know that we have lived on rice and beans when my husband came home from overseas, and it has been, I would consider it a family supporting wage. What is a family supporting wage? And is that the North Star for education in Virginia? Well, apparently it is. But listen.
We're going to use. One, graduates of Virginia education institutions will be hired into family wage supporting jobs, and they'll be actively engaged and productively engaged in civic life. Two, companies will be attracted to, remain in, and grow in the Commonwealth due to the quality of the talent pool. And three, the Virginia economy will grow. One of the most shocking parts about my introduction.
So that's education. They're going to recruit and retain businesses. The talent pool will grow so that the businesses that are here won't leave. Again, no mention of our children. This is their North Star. If you want to see this full video, you can go to the Virginia Education Opportunity Alliance, VEOA, on YouTube. That would, again, be middle resolution, yada, 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 blah, 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 blah. And the whole video is there. If y'all remember me holding the mic up at the Board of Education, blasting them with this, that was fun. And then we go to Youngkin's transition team. Of all the people we just talked about, that's Alan. I didn't really get into Bob McDonald, but he's in there. Trust me. Nobody's innocent in this. There's Wilder. Oh, not sorry. That's Gilmore. And then Bob McDonald. That was his transition team. Who did we just discuss? Yeah. Goals 2000. Outcomes-based education. Oh, Common Core. But don't tell anybody we have Common Core. And then Gilmore has his own. I just didn't feel like I didn't have time. This is one of my old, not old, but a slideshow I'd already done. I think when I was in Louisa. And I spent like 4 hours talking about this. But no. So Chuck Robb. DDR, DDRR, DDD, question mark. It doesn't matter.
Million more job openings than there are people willing to take those jobs today.
Okay. So if you did, most people don't know that our governor was in Davos with the World Economic Forum, and not only in 2020, but in 2019, he was on the stage. Who's purchasing a hotel? Youngkin? Oh, McDonald. Well, the funny thing about that is that McDonald was BFFs with my uncle Curtis, who was big into D2 politics. If you're down from that Virginia Beach area, he's about 7'2". 10'4", I'm not kidding. He owned the Cavalier hotels. And he gave more money to that man when he was in trouble than. But so a lot of people don't know that our governor was in Davos. Both in when I get out, tell me who you're talking about. Davos, Switzerland, World Economic Klaus Schwab, World Economic Forum. In 2020, it was called Testing Economic. He was on with China in 2019. That's a fun one. But okay, so pay attention. Okay, pay attention. Listen to the words that he says out of his mouth.
Million more job openings than there are people willing to take those jobs today in the United States. Yeah. And so we're going to figure this out because we have to. And when you look at the opportunity to sell a new product or open a new facility or launch a new service, and if you don't have the right folks to do it, go find out how to do it. And you partner with a community college, and you come up with a job training program, and you go to the service alumni fairs, and you literally, business is going to figure this out because we have to. The economy is growing. There's new job opportunities, and we need to fill them.
Let's talk. So what he's talking about is filling them with our children, but he's a business. He's run. People do not is he being manipulated? You know, the man went to Rice. He ran McKinsey, and then he ran Carlyle Global. Okay, the man is being manipulated by no one. I promise you that much. Because right here, would a man being manipulated by anybody then go do this?
Starting in Newport News for students who either want to design ships or ones that want to be particularly skilled in building them. All kinds of lab schools, really cool. That melds with a huge ambition that I have, which is to take our community college system and our K through 12 system and kind of merge them a little bit, blur the lines, so that every student who is going to graduate from high school in Virginia has an opportunity, and I might suggest.
Listen, okay, guys, there are so many people in this state that do not find this Trump alarming. Okay. So he just repeated everything he said about partnering with community colleges that he did in Davos 3 years ago. This is in Virginia Beach at the Parents Matter event. I'm just waiting for all of these delegates and senators who lost to finally get some balls and some nerve and come forward and speak truth. But you know what? It hadn't happened yet. But listen to what comes out of his mouth next.
And I might suggest maybe even a requirement down the road to graduate with a credential, an industry recognized credential that they could go to work right away if they chose to.
Require a credential. You're just missing the word skill. Require. Okay, guys. When you have a governor who doesn't think that anybody's going to think, people were probably like, oh, God, yes, that's required. He's talking about them going to be shipbuilders and they're going to go be astronauts. These kids are not going to go to lab schools and become astronauts or anything other than CNAs, graduate with one skill. Okay. How many jobs have you had in your life? Just think to yourself. How many? If you had only been taught one skill and in 10 years you were sick of that skill, what in the world would your life look like? Requiring a skill to graduate. You know what this is called? Degrowth communism. Degrowth communism in education, because degrowth communism is when you go from like capitalism to only focusing on the wellness of the community, the well-being. Okay. So another funny word that they've redefined is wealth. It's not wealth. It's wealth, as in wellness. So degrowth communism is the exit from, capitalism, that's where you'll have nothing and love it comes from. As long as the community is well-being and, you care about the community and their welfare and you're having birth, thrive, defive for everybody, is that it's degrowth communism, and that instead of abandoning like capitalism, we've abandoned academics and we are strictly getting what now? Skills and mental health. No academics mentioned this entire session. They literally don't care. They will literally look at, are we going to talk about academics at all? Are we? No? Okay, I didn't think so. Just wondering.
Or they could go on to college if that's what they choose to do.
Or if they choose. I mean, but I'll tell you this much. My sixth grader, I went into her, as a good mom, I got a portal and I used to go into her modules. And, they require children to do an exploratory. It might be in elementary school by now, which part of it is brainwashing them. And in my 11-year-old, they told her that 4-year college was pointless, too expensive. You'll just pay off forever. You should do community college. Or guess what? We have all of these amazing things at the CTE. You can do this. You can be a CNA, but I'm not kidding you. At 11 years old, told my child that higher education was pointless.
Every child can choose the path that best fits their ambition.
and he goes into pathway. Okay.
I can't.
And then to close, this is in Chesterfield. Thank God she is no longer on the school board. But Catherine Haynes was Tim Kaine's bestie. And this is really important. This would be at a school board meeting last year. And I was sitting there and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to say to them, but I have plenty to say to them. Now she is a loony liberal. Okay. I can say that much. Tim Kaine's bestie. Okay. Loony liberal. But listen to what she has to say. This was last legislative session.
Express how honored I am to serve this board and this county.
Oh, sorry. My bad. Trying to turn the volume down, but it didn't work.
To work with the superintendent and all 8 that included bipartisan representation. Climate of polarization gives me hope. I was in a call recently with school board members from across the state that included bipartisan representation from the Virginia House of Delegates. Here are the top priorities that were shared by the delegates for the 2023 legislative session for schools. 1, increase teacher salaries. 2, develop creative solutions to increase the number of teachers, such as grow your own programs. 3,
Guys, grow your own programs are atrocious. It's like Teach for America. I can't tell you anything other.
3, boost dual enrollment participation and
Dual enrollment.
can you guess which of those priorities were Republican and which were Democrat? Of course not.
Oh, this is being
Increase mental health support and creative solutions to increase the number of teachers, such as grow your own programs. 3, boost dual enrollment participation and career planning and strengthen the connection between careers and high school. 4, increase mental health supports for kids, including access to qualified professionals. 5, make sure that every kid has a pathway to success, career, or college. Can you guess which of those priorities were Republican and which were Democrat? Of course not, because these are the priorities that are shared by the vast majority of Virginians and Chesterfieldians. Virginians and Chesterfieldians are staunch supporters of public education, and to argue otherwise is a false narrative. As one of the delegates on the call stated, education continues to be a space where the bipartisan path forward is found. I'm exceptionally proud to be a part of a board that will put our kids before politics.
Okay. This board in Chesterfield County, if you want to know what a New World Order school board, like people get tired of their school boards arguing. I urge you, come watch a Chesterfield County and watch them vote like drones with no opinion, and you'll be sick. So I just happened to waltz on up there after her.
Ms. Tatus, your time begins now.
Awesome. Don't have time to set up my stuff, but thank you. First, I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room, and that would be that Virginia is 50th again in the nation for 4th grade reading, 8th grade literacy, and 4th grade math. If you pull up the NAEP scores, as the VEA tried to correct me on, it will not tell you that. But if you pull up the Institute of Education Sciences right here, mapping of proficiency standards on the NAEP scores. Over the last decade, we have dropped our standards so low that our children look like they're excelling, and they're not. So twice a year, they equate them. And when they do, Virginia
Every 2 years. Sorry.
is dead last. In Governor Youngkin's May report of his commitment to Virginia education, also known as the Honesty Gap Report, people ask me all the time, where did you get this? If you go to the appendices in the back of the document, he has the same ones with the Virginia in the box. So let's be clear about what we are not doing. And this would be the 8th year in a row Virginia is 50th in the nation. We are bottom. when it comes to reading and literacy, we are the only state basic. We don't even reach proficient.
Below basic.
Bob McDonnell, 2010. So you, Ms. Haynes, you said it perfectly when you said this is a bipartisan effort.
Real funny because she's like this, like waiting for me to like. She knows I'm not going to applaud her by now.
The destruction of education. You have one side driving radical views and one side driving our children into becoming cogs in a machine with workforce education. Both sides. So I stand up here, the only person willing to call out both parties, and I am probably the most nonpartisan person fighting for these children. Both political parties are failing these children, and nobody will acknowledge it. 50th, keep that in mind. And in Bob McDonnell, 2010, 16 states were basic. What did Virginia do? They went from grade level competency to what? College and career readiness. In 10 years, we became the only state basic. 15 states excelled. We stopped doing what? Grade level competency and moved to everything that you just mentioned that the delegates are proud of. Keeping children, they're literally deterring children from going to college. More vocation is wonderful. Only vocation. My daughter's 6th grade exploratory last year in middle school literally was telling her it was pointless to go to college. So let's move on. Gaggle, you spend how much?
So then I just went on to blast them because they're always complaining about money. Okay. If you had any, Chesterfield just happens to make their contracts and how much they spend on them and what data they're collecting on them public. And so I wanted to do that. But is that kind of information is so embedded in here along with a billion other things. But those are like my basic like go-tos. Like if you have to know these things, like 2009, there were 16 states below basic. We stopped doing grade level competency and went to college and career readiness. And in 10 years, in 2019, if you open up Governor Youngkin's dishonesty gap, as I call it, he got in the May report that they did about their, which is, if you've been paying attention for the last year or so to anything I've been saying, you should go back and read that again. And it probably reads a little bit differently. But if you go to the appendices of that, he has the exact report that I talk about that shows we're 50th. He just doesn't ever state it in the actual report. Or what I state is because I actually have the full report. So to close out, I just wanted to give you from Hu Jintao, former General Secretary of the Communist Party of China. China needs to raise people's science awareness and education levels and train skilled and qualified personnel in order to achieve modernization goals. Oh, and then one more. Workforce training is not education. Workforce training is limited learning for lifelong labor. And I will continue to tell this to people until they understand. And so for people that were asking me about school choice, specifically this year, okay, if it was a different year, say last year, it would be a different conversation. But go and read DeSteff's bill. And if you don't want to read it, I've posted the link to last Thursday where I was and I testified on 5 bills. I did not go down there to testify on any of them. The 2 that I went to go testify on got moved. And 1 on data for Craig, I wanted to testify on, but I stayed it was too long. I had to leave. So I spoke on 2 Democrat, Hashmi and Locke. And then I spoke on 3 Republican bills, DeSteff, Brewer, whatever your last name is now, and Sturdicant. And I have no problem knowing what I know, sitting there and biting my tongue because I'm going to be a Republican speaking up. I don't care. They're just people. Like, people ask me all the time, how dare you speak out against the government? Governor, I'm sorry, this is not a totalitarian dictatorship. If you want to keep that mentality in your brain, then one day you will not be able to speak out against your governor. But right now, we're still free. And I encourage people, because people ask me the same questions all the time. All the time. I cannot go over. So your school division told you that you use Castle SEL, but it's not aligned to Castle and you don't do Castle things. I can't have that conversation anymore. I can point you to every video I've ever done. You can get people together, and all of you know, you put out the bat signal, I will come. You get people together, I will come. I will present to you. But I cannot have one-on-one conversations with what your school board told you. And because they're lying. They're lying or they're stupid. Sorry. It's the only way that it is. They're either clueless, feckless. There's three choices. Clueless, feckless, corrupt. That's it. Okay? And if your school board is telling you, we're using Castle, but we're not aligning to Castle, and we're not using anything Castle. Okay, I can squash that and disprove it in like 5 minutes. Then I tell people, have you even looked up what this caring whatever community is? They're not hiding it. But is that you have to do the work. And if you have questions about the work, once the work has been done, God bless it, please contact me. But I can't answer questions like about, what is that SEL bad? Oh my God, yes, it's bad. If they're still telling you it's about bullying, and if you're still stuck at bullying, then we really need to rewind. Because not that SEL is not important, because there was a time 6 months ago where I thought it was the most important thing. It is not the most important thing right now. Understanding what's going on, like, especially teachers. You need to tell teachers that in 5 years, there will be no teachers. The governor just put an executive order on AI because his legislation did not pass last year, that he had Wampler do for AI, augmented reality, and VR. So what does our governor go do? He doesn't worry about it this year because he can't get it through. So he writes an executive order, which has the force of law to force AI on our children. This after I argued with everybody in my, enormous Chesterfield County of 69 schools that Lego down the street was going to build blocks. No, it's Lego Metaverse. These kids are going to be in VR goggles in school with instructional aids to proctor them, learning off of Roblox, Minecraft. I'm not kidding. It's not funny. And I can't be any more blunt about it. The time to choose was 2 years ago. But if anything, the time to choose is now. So it's late. Thank you for those staying up with me. It is 1:15. It's still early for me. I might be able to still get some work done. No, really, but I'll be in Winchester on Saturday with Dr. Fury. I think Don Blake. Some of us are going up there. But I'm going to be mainly talking about why the gun people have to care and what all of this mental health stuff is going to do if they throw a red flag law. So if you want to start talking to your gun people about something, whoever just said that, not cool. I want to go to the beach. I want a vacation. How about that? I don't vacation well. I end up working. But my birthday is coming up. Oh, yeah. I do have a birthday coming up. Crap. 44. But anyway, I just realized that. Monday, I think. Or the 29th. Watching my children. Children. Love my children to death. Death. Like, to death. I look at them. I don't care. I don't care if I leave this fight with no friends, as long as I've protected my children and my grandchildren, and I have gone down without a fight in chain, making a mark on this world. And why every parent doesn't think I think that way, grandparent, I don't know. I don't know why they don't want to. Yes, exactly. Grandchildren. I don't want my daughters to have to fight this fight. I don't. The world that our children, that my children are going to have to raise my grandchildren in, if we don't stop this, if you haven't figured out from Chuck Robb to now, is beyond frightening. So let's pull up something fun to close this out. Hold on one second. Ooh, here we go. I should probably turn. Yeah. I feel like closing out with something like inspirational. So those of you who know me know what I'm probably going to close out with. And this is an ode to our past, to number 45, 46, and 47.
Years from now, some of them may look back
that I live by. These are my fight words.
And ask themselves whether they've made the right choice, whether they've made the most of the opportunities.
Whether you like him or not,
Together,
listen to the damn word.
We have the same mission.
And on that note,
over the course of your life, you will find that things are not always fair. You will find that things happen to you that you do not deserve and that are not always warranted. But you have to put your head down and fight, fight, fight. Never, ever, ever give up. Don't give in, don't back down, and never stop doing what you know is right. Nothing worth doing ever, ever, ever came easy. And the more righteous your fight, the more opposition that you will face. In your hearts are inscribed the values of service, sacrifice, and devotion. Now you must go forth into the world and turn your hopes and dreams into action. America has always been the land of dreams because America is a nation of true believers. When the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth, they prayed. When the founders wrote the Declaration of Independence, they invoked our Creator 4 times. Because in America, we don't worship government, we worship God. It is why our currency proudly declares, "In God we trust." And it's why we proudly proclaim that we are one nation under God. The story of America is the story of an adventure that began with deep faith, big dreams, and humble beginnings. The next generation of American leaders never, ever give up. There'll be times in your life you'll want to quit. Never quit. Never stop fighting for what you believe in and for the people who care about you. Carry yourself with dignity and pride. Demand the best from yourself. The more people tell you it's not possible, that it can't be done, the more you should be absolutely determined to prove them wrong. Treat the word impossible as nothing more than motivation. Relish the opportunity to be an outsider. The more that a broken system tells you that you're wrong, the more certain you should be that you must keep pushing ahead. You must keep pushing forward. And always have the courage to be yourself. America is better when people put their faith into action. Pray to God and follow his teachings. Today, each of you begins a new chapter as well. When your story goes from here, it will be defined by your vision, your perseverance, and your grit. You will build a future where we have the courage to chase our dreams no matter what the cynics and the doubters have to say. You will have the confidence to speak the hopes in your hearts and to express the love that stirs your souls. As long as you have pride in your beliefs, courage in your convictions, and faith in God, then you will not fail. As long as America remains true to its values, loyal to its citizens, and devoted to its Creator, then our best days are yet to come.
That's my jam. It's like relish the opportunity to be an outsider. It's kind of like the man in the arena. It's it just lifts me up. And I've posted it a million times, and sometimes I've posted it a couple times with just the words without the person, and the feedback is amazing. But we can't give up. It's just not it's not a choice. Relish the opportunity to be an outsider. The more a broken system tells you that you are wrong, the more you must be certain that you must keep fighting. You must keep pushing ahead. Listen, the more a broken system tells you that you are wrong, remember that. The system is broken. They can tell you they're wrong all you want. I tell people all the time, it's not up to you to. I didn't break the system. It's that I will fix what you broke any way I feel, any way I choose. And that's the honest God truth about it. But what it comes down to is it's really not hard to fight this fight if you understand the Constitution, the founding documents, constitutional law, which is common law. And like I told the Board of Education, it's called the Bill of Rights, not the Bill of Feelings. Is the founding fathers created protections for all of this. There's absolutely nothing constitutional being done in this state, much less across the nation. It's just up to us, the people, we the people, because we know the government's not coming to save us. So therefore, we must save ourselves. And to do that, we have to have the strength. I've said a million times, the heroes of this story will not be the rebels. Even Trump won't be the hero. I mean, look at the amount of it. I mean, I get it to this degree of what he's gotten it, but people like Trump and I were born for this. I mean, is that the rebels, the people who were born to stand against. I mean, I'm a high defiant nonconformist. I just finally found a real fight to fight. We won't be the heroes of this story. The people who overcome their fear and stand up with the rebels, so that we're no longer standing alone and so that our numbers grow, they'll be the heroes. The parents that overcome their fear of being called out or being ostracized for standing up for their children, standing up for this nation, they'll be the heroes. I hope I'm never remembered. I hope that the masses of parents who finally decide, and the grandparents, and anybody who stands up, because our children and then education are the future of this nation. But I hope the masses are remembered. I'm just here because God called and I answered. And I don't mind sitting here at 1 o'clock in the morning staring at myself, wondering if anybody's talking or anybody's aware. So with that, I hope you have a little background on the same exact terminology and verbiage and education excellence and our children being used for a workforce and is not new. And so If what was being said today by Glenn Youngkin was being said by Ralph Northam or Tim Kaine as governor, start asking people what their reaction would be. Probably a little different. If they'll admit it or not, I don't know. If they won't, call their bullshit. You would. If you would, absolutely. If they said we're birth thrive to 5. I mean, what was it? Lenin, who said as pretty much as soon as they're off the teat, they come to us. As soon as they can be away from their mother, that means off the boob, then they belong to us. Like, if you don't think that's what birth thrive to 5 is, in kindergarten, like to get like preschools need to be more academic to get kindergarten ready. Like, no, kindergartners don't need to be ready for anything. And like I said, possibly wipe their own butts. Like, that's how they're sucking the joy out of childhood. Kindergarten ready? Really? To do cost benefit analysis, Venn diagrams? What are we doing to our children? What about playing with blocks? There's no recess anymore. Collectivism. If one child speaks out, the whole group is punished. Your 5-year-old doesn't get multiple recesses a day. Their 1 15-minute recess might get taken away. Can you think of a more miserable childhood? Or why there's maybe a mental illness problem? 5-year-olds staring at computers all day with no recess. My 1-year-old goes to school and my first grader, and gets covered in glue. And she's the minority, and she sings songs about Jesus. And it's not perfect. They do SOLs, but I got my eyes on them all the time. But they color, and they have theme days, and there is joy in school. And we pay a price for it. But would I take it back for anything in the world? Not on your life. Would I take a second of it back? Not only that, but my extremely crushed 11-year-old that I pulled out in 7th grade, and those of you that follow me, the light started to come out in her. And this year at 13, you wouldn't have known her. And all I did was remove her from public schools. But pushing for school choice, looking for that answer as a parent, is not the answer. You have to look at sacrifice. You have to be selfless, not selfish. Because if you think the government is going to give you a way to parent better or to parent easier, no, that's not why you became a parent. It's for the government to create a program for you to protect your children. Because do you think they're really going to protect your children? No, you have to do that yourself. But, oh yeah, Vision 2040. Yeah, Vision 2040. That's based off of Incheon Declaration 2030 and Goals 2000. I mean, it's just, it's madness. But guys, this stuff is out there. Like, it's just whether you care enough to look at it. And I know people who are. I believe that in the last 2 years, what people told me I could not do by setting, by doing, you have to do, you have to politic, and you have to play nice. You have to play with politicians. No, I don't. And I never have. 2 called me this morning. 2 that I probably have blasted on social media and said some pretty crappy shit about. But they respect me because they know they know they deserve it. But this is not going to be solved by us asking nicely. I can tell you that much. And this is not going to be solved by coddling turncoats like Family Foundation and Heritage and being nice to Ty Turner and not calling him a Coke sellout piece of shit like I do. I know exactly who you are, Koch brothers. How much did you cost? Come at me again. What? These are the people destroying our children. They don't owe you anything. You certainly don't owe them anything, much less your politeness. But I encourage people the next time you want to have this school choice conversation, ask them, what do you mean by that? Vouchers? ESAs? This year's ESA? Last year's ESA? What do you mean by that? Vouchers? ESAs? Vouchers? ESAs? This year's ESA? Last year's ESA? What do you mean by that? Vouchers? ESAs? This year's ESA? Last year's ESA? What do you mean by that? Vouchers? ESAs? This year's ESA? Last year's ESA? What do you mean by that? Vouchers? ESAs? This year's ESA? Last year's ESA? What do you mean by that? Vouchers? ESAs? This year's ESA? Last year's ESA? What do you mean by that? Vouchers? ESAs? This year's ESA? Last year's ESA? What do you mean by that? Vouchers? ESAs? This year's ESA? Last year's ESA? What do you mean by that? Vouchers? ESAs? This year's ESA? Last year's ESA? What do you mean by that? Vouchers? ESAs? This year's ESA? Last year's ES Do you think the government's going to take your money and give it back? Do you think there's enough privates? Are you going to homeschool? Because there's not enough privates to go to. I mean, even if you don't know the entire like dirty truth behind school choice, like there's questions to make people start thinking. How about you start pushing for transparency in education so that every parent gets notified of their rights to opt out? Throw the sand in the gear, and then it becomes a wrench in the gear. And then you fought for your own rights versus, and I don't want to fight for my rights. I just want, the government to give me money to go to somewhere else, who's then going to continue to violate your rights. So learning what your rights are and how to stand up for them. People call me all the time and they say, Ann, I have this. How would you handle it? You're not going to handle it the way that I would handle it. That's just it. If you told me I couldn't get in the building where my second grader was, I'd kick the goddamn door down and get to my kid. Everybody else stands outside like, this just seems really screwed up that I can't get in the building. What do I do? If I couldn't get in the building where you're educating my kid and you have me locked out from my child, I'll kick the goddamn door down to get to my kid. But that's me. But parents need to be more like that. I understand that we've all been brainwashed to be nice, compliant parents. Okay, I don't want to hear anymore that parents are scared of being put on a list. Okay, because if I'm still here, I guarantee you I'm on lists all over the place, and I don't give a shit about Merrick Garland. I probably have Yunkin drones flying over my house. So if I'm not a testament of the truth, is that if I hear, I just don't want to, I'm afraid of being targeted. Hi, I'm here. Not probably am, but not like y'all think. Like that whole thing, if you don't think that got blown up for a reason to shut parents up, think about it. Parents stopped standing up when what happened? They told us we were domestic terrorists and that I'm still here. Ain't nobody, people ain't come for my gate. I'm still here. So stop coming up with excuses and look at your children. Look at your children. Tell people you love. Look at your children. Because one day they're going to look at you and go, why? Why didn't you fight for us? Why didn't you stand up? I promise you that as a survivor of different kinds of stuff, your children will grow up to be adults, young adults. And if they still have a good head on their shoulders, they will look at you and they will know what you did and did not do as their parent. I promise you this much. But on that note, I always go way over. I'm going to put a timer. But all right. Y'all need anything? Everybody knows where to find me. Teresa, I think that's you. Lino Beach, my birthday. Let's go next time. All right. Y'all take care.